The final item of business today is the members' business debate on motion number 5710 in the name of David Torrance on congratulating Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would be grateful if those members who wish to speak in the debate could please press the request to speak buttons now. And I call on David Torrance to open the debate. 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would like to welcome Mike McFarlane, Chair of Save the Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society, and members of the committee, volunteers, supporters and friends of the Society to Parliament today. Save the Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society was formed in 1986 after vandals drove a car into Jonathan's Cave and set fire to it and destroyed the swan drawing, which is part of the Wemyss coats of arms and is now lost forever. The aims of the groups are to protect the caves, educate the people about them, spread greater awareness of their importance to a worldwide audience. Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society has to be congratulated on its efforts, not only for preserving the caves, but for its vision for the future and recognising the potential that the caves have for the Wemyss area and the benefits they will bring locally and to the Fife economy in general. Sadly, though, the Wemyss caves are once again under threat, not only from human interference, but from nature itself. Many of the caves will soon be lost through coastal erosion or landslips, and consequently one of the jewels in the crown of Scottish history will be gone forever. It is essential, therefore, that everyone helps Mike and his team in trying to resolve this issue as quickly as possible, thus ensuring the preservation of the caves for posterity. The historic importance of the Wemyss caves to Scotland is vital, as they contain more historic significant markings than all other caves in Britain. The historic importance of the Wemyss caves has to be reiterated by a leading academic in early Scottish history and culture, Dr James Fraser, who has stated, "From the perspective of Scotland's early medieval past and its study, the significance of the Wemyss caves can scarcely be exaggerated, because they are truly a unique phenomenon. Objects and locations bearing the markings that have come to be known as Pictish symbols represent the single largest body of evidence that has survived from the centuries when the Picts dominated political and cultural life in Scotland. The symbols are, so to speak, Scotland's hieroglyphics. To lose the example in the Wemyss caves, by far the richest and most numerous and most complex assemblage of all, would be an unutterable tragedy. All efforts to ensure their preservation and recording for posterity are to be encouraged. The caves incorporated in the Wemyss caves are Jonathan's Caves, the unnamed cave, St Margaret's Well, the Sloten Cave, the East and West Dew Caves and the Well Cave. These caves, which are all in different shapes and sizes, have been used by many groups of people for a wide variety of purposes over thousands of years, including prehistoric cave dwellers, the Picts, early Christians, Norsemen, Jacobites and smugglers. The markings in the caves can be classified in three groups: pre-Christian, Christian and Viking. The symbols and markings left by individual groups throughout the ages provide us with a valuable insight and understanding of the different cultures and living practices. The drawing on the east wall of Jonathan's Cave is one of the oldest drawings of a ship in Scotland. It is probably that of a Pictish ship. Pre-Christian drawings are mostly of Pictish origin, including elephant, figures, animals and ornaments. The Christian drawings are mainly of Pictish, but this time include early Christian symbols and cross markings. Those markings left by the Vikings show symbols of Norse gods. Thor with his hammer, followed by his sacred goat, Freya, portrayed as a goose, and Odin by his trumpet form. There is, however, still potentially much more to discover. In all probability, many hidden archaeological treasures waiting to be unearthed in those sections of the caves which are partially or completely filled in. The Wemyss caves have attracted a great deal of academic interest throughout the years, but perhaps just how widespread on an international level is best exemplified by the following. In 1990, whilst on a skiing holiday in Bulgaria, I engaged in a conversation with a couple from Germany. When I told them I came from Fife, they proceeded to show me a 4-page article from a German newspaper about the Wemyss caves. They could not understand why I had not protected and developed such an important historical site, which was part of our heritage. The well-known author, photographer and educationist Hamish Brown, MBA, remarked that this is a widely read book, The Fife Coasts. It seems extraordinary that so little has been done to protect this unique site. I recently attended Save the Wemyss Caves Society annual lecture, which was delivered by Joanna Hamley of SCAP. Scottish coastal, archaeological and the problems of erosion, which is an organisation committed to research and promotion of Scotland's coast. Joanna's lecture entitled Visualising the Wemyss Caves gave an excellent overview on how to plan to utilise the state-of-the-art survey and visualisation methods in order to digitally preserve the interior of the caves, and their carvings would enable people to virtually explore the caves in incredibly realistic detail. This project also offers an excellent opportunity once again to engage with the local community. 6 of the Wemyss Caves are situated on the western part of East Wemyss coastline and form part of the Fife Coastal Path, which at 117 miles is the longest trail in Scotland, attracting thousands of walking visitors a year. This only highlights the need for a purpose-built visitor centre, which would simultaneously raise the profile of East Wemyss by generating jobs and hopefully lead to greater investment in the area. It would also allow people to further their knowledge about the important part of Scottish history and provide many positive opportunities for active learning experiences, which would fulfil one of the aims of Save the Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society. I have to thank the Scottish Government and Fiona Hislop, Cabinet Secretary for Culture and External Affairs, for their efforts in bringing this matter to the attention of Historic Scotland, who are now willing to provide technical advice as well as considering a grant support in order to achieve a long-term viable solution to ensure the caves remain intact for the future generations. Only yesterday I had a meeting with Dave Patterson from Fife Council, and recently also had a discussion with the National Lottery about Wemyss Caves. Now it is a case of bringing all the interested parties together in order to develop a long-term strategy for the caves in the Wemyss area, of which the Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society, with its wealth of knowledge of the area, will be an integral part. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, I would like to thank Save the Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society for its commitment and dedication in the past to Wemyss Cave, and for all those involved for the continued fight for the cave's future and the determination to highlight their historical importance to Scotland and the local area. Despite often having faced an uphill struggle over the years, they have not wavered in their belief of the importance of the Wemyss Caves in our historical landscape. They have championed their cause with passion and enthusiasm, in the belief that ultimately, by realising and bringing to fruition their full potential of the caves in so many different ways, they will not only benefit the area, but preserve something of real historic value and one of the jewels in the crown of Scottish history for the benefit of future generations. That is why I will continue to offer my support in any way I can to help them achieve their objectives, and would urge the Minister and any members here today to avail themselves to the opportunity to see the importance of the Wemyss Caves by visiting on one of the open Sundays which run from April to September.
Thank you very much. I now call Claire Baker to be followed by Richard Lyle.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I welcome the opportunity to speak in this evening's debate and congratulate David Torrance on securing this slot. I would also like to welcome members of the Save Wemyss-Caves Society to the Chamber this evening, and I hope they find the debate interesting and a positive contribution to their work. Established in 1986, I would like to recognise the Society's commitment and hard work on highlighting the importance of the caves and campaigning for their preservation. They do a lot of work gathering and recording information on the caves and encourage others to take an interest. This is not their first engagement with Parliament. In 2000, they brought a petition to the Parliament following the loss of the foreshore path to coastal erosion and received support from the committee that further effort should be made to protect the caves. The Wemyss Caves are a group of 7 natural caves that lie along the coast immediately to the west of the village West Wemyss. They are statutorily protected scheduled ancient monuments and are recognised as being of national importance. The drawings on the Wemyss Caves are unique. They depict Pictish symbols, early Christian imagery and Viking representations. They tell the story of the coast, of the communities who lived and traded there and those who even smuggled there. The drawings provide important information on our understanding of Pictish imagery and how it represents both life as well as death. They expand our knowledge of early drawing and carving techniques, but most importantly, they connect modern generations to history in a way that textbooks just can't. The caves are difficult to access, and the Society is to be congratulated for the opportunities they offer for people to visit the caves through guided tours. The knowledge of the guides adds much to the experience of visiting the caves. It's not always easy to see the drawings, and the guides' expertise adds greatly to the experience. There is potential for greater public engagement, but there are significant challenges in achieving that. Over the years, the caves have been vulnerable to vandalism. A combination of willful damage and neglect has led to a compromising of the quality of what the caves have to offer. The Society themselves recognised this when they formed as partly in a response to vandals and fires being lit in the caves, which led to some of the work having been lost forever. It is worth recognising that the caves are on private property. Clearly, Fife Council and Historic Scotland have key interests in the future of the caves, and surely, given national importance, the Scottish Government also have a role in ensuring that they have a future. But they are on private land as part of the Wemyss estate, and there should be a level of engagement and responsibility there also. But while vandalism, natural weathering and inherent geographic instability have all played a part in the deterioration of the caves and their landscape, coastal erosion has been and continues to be the greater challenge. Since 1989, Fife Council and Historic Scotland have invested in coastal defence works, but the challenge of success in this area cannot be underestimated. This stretch of coastline is experiencing considerable coastal erosion, and the coastline has retreated by at least 30 metres since 1974, not only presenting challenges to the caves, but also to many villages and communities across Fife's coastline. So the caves are at the mercy of the elements. The Scottish Coastal Archaeology and Problem of Erosion Trust, otherwise known as SCAPE, have been involved in recording the Pictish carvings in particular, and as the Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop recently recognised, SCAPE has led the field in highlighting the erosion of coastal sites, and it's a credit to its members and research that it's found a way to use incredibly accessible mobile technology to improve the national records through the creative use of local expertise. We need to consider all options for the caves. Coastal erosion presents significant challenges in achieving a long-term or permanent solution, but we need to consider the options for long-term management. A sustainable solution needs to be found, which means the knowledge that these drawings give us and the insight they provide into the history of the shoreline and of Scotland can be saved. We cannot underestimate the threat of coastal erosion or how difficult and costly coastal protection is, but we can also be committed to a future for these important historic depictions.
Thank you very much. I should have pointed out the speeches of 4 minutes. Richard Lyle, to be followed by Murdo Fraser.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would like also to thank David-Torrance for bringing this debate to the Chamber and welcome the Save Wemyss Society to their Parliament. In today's modern society, we are often encouraged to look to the future and the next big thing around the corner. However, it is important that we do not forget our past. It is our past that has helped shape who we are as individuals, who we are as a nation and our heritage. In this debate we will be looking at the Wemyss Caves and the history that has been preserved there. The caves appear to have been created by sea action thousands of years ago and house a large collection of carvings on their walls. In fact, it has been said that there are more carvings on the walls of these caves than all the caves in Britain put together. The caves at Wemyss have been used by various groups, from prehistoric cave dwellers, the Picts, Norsemen, early Christians, Jacobites and smugglers throughout history, perhaps explaining the large number of carvings. Despite the obvious historical relevance of the caves and being a registered scheduled monument, they are now under threat. I note that steps are being taken to prevent further damage from coastal erosion, landslips and human interference. Some caves already have been lost, along with all the historical important carvings that they contain. The Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society must be commended for the work to date that they have done in preserving the Wemyss Caves. Formed in October 1986 due to willful damage to the caves by vandals, its members have sacrificed a great deal of time and expense in order to promote and preserve the caves. The volunteers' work is varied and creative and covers everything from book publications to hosting annual historical lectures. On top of this, the Society holds a series of open Sundays in which visitors are given the chance to explore the caves and the museum dedicated to the caves. Scotland's history has proven to be vitally important to the economy on both a national and local level, and these caves could provide a vital tourist attraction to the area of Fife if preserved properly. It also provides excellent educational opportunities to local schools, providing an active learning opportunity. It is important that all possible avenues are explored in order to preserve and protect these historical significant caves and the carvings contained within. This includes the project run by the Scottish Coastal Archaeological and the Problem of Erosion Trust, which plans to use digital technology on the caves. This project is welcome, as it has the capacity to distribute the cave carvings to a wider audience, which in turn will hopefully increase the interest in the caves. However, digital reproduced images are no substitute for actually visiting the caves and seeing them first hand, and I would encourage as many people to do so as possible. Living in the west of Scotland, I may not live near the Wemyss-Caves, but like David Torrance, I compliment and support the work being done by the Wemyss-Caves Society to keep this important heritage for Scotland.
Thank you very much. I now call Murdo Fraser, who will be followed by Rod Campbell.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I start by congratulating David Torrance on securing this debate and for bringing the motion to Parliament, and join others in congratulating the Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society for all the great work that they do. I think it's fair to say the vast majority of Scots are completely unaware that Wemyss plays host to the greatest cave grouping in Britain and Northern Europe. Indeed, I was basically unaware of that myself until this debate appeared on the list of motions for Parliament. And I'm hoping that this debate, simply by being held, will bring some much-needed public awareness to the potential for this often undiscovered attraction in Fife, and I think David Torrance is to be commended, therefore, for highlighting the issue. As Mr Torrance said, it was after vandalism destroyed the swan carving in 1986 that the Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society was set up, with the remit to preserve and promote cave carvings that date back some 3,500 years. The volunteers of the Society staged 7 unique Open Sunday events between April and September, as we have heard, which are an opportunity for members of the public to take place in expert-led guided walks and other activities to learn more about the caves. Such is the appetite for these, the visitors have travelled from all 4 corners of the UK to take part, and indeed from further afield. And I'm sure members of all parties will recognise the hard work, dedication and determination of all the volunteers who, for the last 31 years, have helped stage these events. The 12 individual caves play a special role in Wemyss culture, as the name of the nearby town, East Wemyss, comes, of course, from the old Scots word Wemyss, which means cave. The significance of the caves was underlined in 2004, when a Time Team documentary was filmed at the site. During that film, Douglas Spears, the head archaeologist at Fife Council, said, "The archaeological study of the internationally important Wemyss Caves has the very real potential to revolutionise our understanding of the Pictish period. Something of extreme importance was happening at these caves during the Pictish period, but only excavation can explain what this was." Despite this, we are still very much in the dark when it comes to understanding Pictish culture and their way of life. But these caves hold great significance, for they represent the drawings and feelings of ordinary Picts who were not among the elite classes. Deciphering these symbols could unlock the mystery of these early Scots. Because of their national importance, more needs to be done to secure the long-term sustainability of the caves. As has been mentioned already, and was mentioned in the documentary I referred to, coastal erosion threatens the very existence of the caves, and although erecting coastal defences was ruled out several years ago, partly due to cost, technology has improved in the meantime, and this could be feasible in the future. A briefing from the Scottish Coastal Heritage at Risk Group demonstrates the very pressing danger of natural archaeological erosion. Stopping erosion will be difficult. However, I believe that contingency plans must be drawn up to save the cave drawings if natural forces cannot be turned back. And the final point I would like to make is just to echo the call made by David Torrance regarding the feasibility of a visitor and heritage centre. The Fife Coastal Path Report of 2007 states that the number of annual path visits was at that time estimated to be between 480 and 580,000 per annum, generating between £8 and £10 million for the local economy. A visitor centre could profit from this footfall and potentially generate funds that could be used to preserve the caves. And of course, the financial benefits a visitor centre could bring to the local economy would be very significant. To this end, I would encourage the Scottish Government to engage with the Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society and look at the feasibility of a visitor centre which would act as a focal point for the caves. That, of course, would also provide the area with a tangible economic legacy. And I hope we can hear positive things from the Minister in response to this debate. Thank you.
Many thanks. And I now call Rod Campbell.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would first of all like to congratulate David Torrance as a fellow Fife MSP for bringing this debate to Parliament today and highlighting the work of the Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society. I welcome Mike McFarlane and his volunteers and friends in the public gallery. I understand the Society has been working hard since 1986 to promote and protect the caves and their unique heritage. That heritage, of course, first captured significant academic interest in the mid-19th century when Sir James Young Simpson, renowned for his contribution to anaesthesia, visited the caves in 1865 and recorded the carvings inside, and since then academic interest has flourished. Local historian Frank Rankin has written extensively about the caves, and his book, The Wemyss-Caves, is popular with visitors and enthusiasts alike. As well as the expected interest from academia, the caves have also captured the imagination of Kirkcaldy-born criminal crime author Val McDermott, who I understand used the caves as part of the setting of her novel A Darker Domain, a book which I haven't read, which I understand is a gripping novel of its type. As Murdo Fraser has already indicated, UK-wide attention was brought to the caves in the summer of 2004 when Time Team visited the caves, and the visit was an all-round success as the team discovered the Holy Well in the Wells Cave, which was used by medieval pilgrims. The excavations unearthed deeply stratified archaeological deposits inside the caves, providing evidence of many centuries of occupation, with layers in the sliding or sloping cave showing evidence of occupation as long ago as the 4th century AD by the Picts, as well as providing further evidence of activity during the medieval period by Christian hermits and pilgrims. The Society has been working hard since its inception to ensure the preservation of this historically distinctive setting. The caves are an important and valuable part of Fife's and Scotland's history, and it would be a great shame not to take steps to preserve this important piece of our heritage from the effects of coastal erosion, landslips and human interference, which David Torrance and Claire Baker have outlined in their speeches. The caves really are at the mercy of the elements, but on a more positive note, the Society has worked hard to gain funding so that all visitors can enjoy the unique opportunity to view a special part of our nation's history. And this paid off in particular when they received $25,000 for a new access path to the caves to help ensure safer access. A principal aim of the Society, of course, is to work hard to obtain funding for a purpose-built visitor and learning centre, as the current museum is less than ideal for its purposes, and access to the Wemyss Environmental Education Centre is limited, and more importantly, there is not appropriate access to the facilities for individuals with disabilities. The Society wishes to offer all individuals, so far as possible, the opportunity to explore and learn more about this fascinating part of our history. Any financial cost of preserving and promoting the caves would undoubtedly be dwarfed by the cultural and educational gains we will receive from such an undertaking. I would commend the Society's efforts in that respect, and David Torrance has outlined a lot of the efforts going in to raise funding. But we certainly do need to take more steps to protect and preserve this unique site. We need to ensure that the caves are marketed as a historical highlight on the Fife Coastal Path, which Murdo Fraser has already mentioned. It's already an incredibly popular walking route with visitors from far and near. The history of Scotland is an important aspect to tourism generally and plays a key role in supporting the economy at both the local and national level. The caves are already a historical jewel in Fife's crown, and we could and should do more to invest in their future. But it's not only the economy which could benefit from the caves, as they offer a unique insight into the past, and of course they provide opportunities for learning at all stages across Scotland. I wish the Society the very best of luck for the future. I hope this debate has helped to raise the profile of both the work of the Society and of the caves themselves, and I'm very pleased to support David Torrance in bringing this matter to debate on such an important part of Fife's history today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I now invite Humza Yousaf to respond to the debate? Minister, you have 7 minutes in which to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Like other members across the Chamber, I'd like to congratulate David Torrance for securing this debate and bringing it to the Chamber. I'd also like to welcome Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society, who have come in great numbers. And may I also pass on an apology from the Cabinet Secretary, Fiona Hislop, who is on government business in Germany today. She's asked me to respond to this member's motion, and I know she would have welcomed the chance to recognise the good work of the Society. Scotland's local historical and archaeological societies make a really substantial contribution to protecting and managing our historic environment. Indeed, often the best way, and sometimes the only way, to get involved in archaeology or history is through your local societies. They arrange talks, walks, guides and events which happen nearly every week in Scotland and do much to provide opportunities for all of us to use and enjoy and indeed understand our cultural heritage. I am therefore happy on the Scottish Government's behalf to recognise the work of the Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society. Since 1986, as many members have commented, the Society has done so much to promote public understanding and awareness and enjoyment of the Wemyss area and the caves in particular. I'd also like to put on record our understanding of the national significance of the caves. They are a scheduled site, and as such, their national significance should not be underplayed, although I agree entirely with Murdo Fraser's comment that perhaps many people in Scotland do not know enough about them, and hopefully this debate secured by David Torrance will help in raising that awareness. The work of the Society typifies the passion, commitment, hard work and enthusiasm that we see in many local archaeological and historical societies across Scotland. I'm aware of some of the guidebooks they've produced for the caves, the walks that they carry out year after year to show local people and visitors the rich heritage of this area. I'm sure we all recognise that this work is given freely on weekends, after work, balancing family life and commitments and wider benefits to the community. So I'm sure they would not mind me saying that, having looked over their work from 1986, it's fair to say the Ancient Society is tenacious in their work, and I mean that in the best and the complimentary way as I possibly can. The Society work shows why it's vital that we recognise and empower local groups and communities to continue to be involved in managing and promoting our archaeological sites. To this end, the Government supports the work of Archaeology Scotland, who help people from all walks of life to get more involved with archaeology through learning, through promotion and support for Scotland's unique historic environment. And many of you may be aware of the great work done through the Scottish Archaeological Month each September. And nevertheless, for archaeological remains in coastal areas, we recognise the difficulties local communities face in protecting and understanding this element of Scotland's heritage. We now fund the work, as Claire Baker had mentioned, of the SCAPE Trust to provide a national approach on the issue. A charity based in the University of St Andrews, SCAPE undertakes national monitoring programmes and archaeological investigations of key monuments affected by coastal erosion. The charity is focused on engaging with coastal communities to complete these programmes. Using technologies such as phone apps, the project provides information for use by local communities to monitor and record sites at risk. I'm glad to know that one of their projects is the Wemyss-Caves, where they're working with the Society and university researchers to laser scan the sites. While I know the member, David Torrance, supports this recording project, I'm also aware that he and other members feel strongly about the physical protection of the caves. And the caves have suffered from vandalism, as we've heard, the presence of mining and its long-term effects and coastal erosion of the sites and paths. Each of these issues requires a very different approach for the long-term management of the caves. The archaeological heritage of Fife is rich and varied, especially in the coastal areas. The national significance of the Wemyss-Caves is acknowledged by the status of 6 of the 12 caves as a scheduled monument. This designation allows Scottish ministers to provide support and advice to owners and others seeking to undertake positive work. The Scottish Government recognises the strength of local feeling and commitment to the protection of the cave. We also acknowledge that the management problems have been significant and complex, with no practical and necessarily cost-effective solution to date. Existing coastal defences funded by central and local government in the 1990s had some effect, but were by no means presented a permanent solution. So members have quite rightly asked what Scottish Government actions and assistance we can provide and we can take forward. And so accordingly, the Cabinet Secretary for External Affairs, Culture and External Affairs, Ms Hislop, has asked Historic Scotland to set up a working group to review the situation since the 1990s and look at the management issues and options moving forward. The Cabinet Secretary has also written to Fife Council to seek their participation in the group, and I'm glad to note that they have accepted. Key to the success of this group, of course, is the participation, support and knowledge of the society, the local community, the owners, the Wemyss estate. I'm also glad to note that SCAPE will provide their expertise on this group as well, and I'm told the group will meet for the first time in the next few weeks when a suitable date for all has been confirmed. I also understand that the Cabinet Secretary, Ms Hislop, intends to visit the site in late summer to review the group's progress. So while the group will look at the erosion effects and mitigation options, the aim is also to review the full range of issues affecting the site, such as access, interpretation and visitor amenity. Ultimately, the aim is to provide a framework for future management of the site, agreed by all parties. I thought a point well made by Murdo Fraser. And I agree visitor numbers are important for sustainability. A visitor strategy will be part of the discussions that are ongoing by the working group when they meet. Quite rightly, there are concerns about archaeological sites being lost through coastal erosion. As we've heard, climate change is having an increasingly negative impact on environment, including the historic environment, while rising sea levels and increasing storm events causing more attrition to archaeological sites each year. So perhaps the work of the working group will actually serve not just to benefit Wemyss-Caves, but actually many sites around our coastal area. The key to good management of this resource is the integrated work of all parts of the historic environment sector to allow long-term planning, I believe, and concerted action at the right time. So we will continue as a government to support the work of local groups like the Society, public authorities, local communities and research institutions to value and manage our coastal and maritime heritage. But let me just end by once again thanking David-Torrance for bringing this. I think raising much awareness, but also for bringing the Society and organising the Society to come forward. I thank them for their work since 1986, but I think their input into the working group will be extraordinarily helpful, not just for the Wemyss-Caves, but for many historical sites across Scotland.
Thank you very much, Minister. That then concludes David-Torrance's debate on congratulating Save Wemyss-Ancient-Caves Society, and I now close this meeting of Parliament.